Hello. Why would you want to use a picture of a hare to advertise beer? What's the kind of iconography around hares? Why should hares make it? Why should seeing a hare on a label make you want to buy a beer? I don't know. And I'm interested in this because this is how language gets used. Language gets used to persuade us of things. And I'm very interested in the way that language gets used and how it gets used to persuade us of all sorts of things, all kinds of interesting deceptions. My era is actually the 18th century, and the interesting deception I'm most interested in is the um, is the poet Christopher Smart. He was a poet and he was also a journalist. And in the world of print culture in the 18th century, when a lot of things were new in the print culture of 18th century. You could just go into a bookshop and buy new kinds of things, volumes of poetry, biographies, this new kind of writing called the novel, and periodicals, magazines. Christopher Smart was a bloke. He was at Cambridge Don, but he came to London to make his living as a poet. But he couldn't do that because it was hard to make your living as a poet, as we all know. So Smart started a magazine, and in the magazine he did a weird transgender thing. He decided to run it as a woman. So he pretended to be an old woman who was running this magazine. He pretended to be an old midwife. Of course, he wasn't, and he wrote some very funny, very interesting journalism. Then later on, he had this strange. He took a funny turn. And he lost his reason and he was sent to a madhouse. And in the madhouse, in the asylum, he wrote very strange, kind of acid crazed, demented, wonderful devotional poetry that later poets have picked up on and loved, Allen Ginsberg. So in Smart's case, it was language being used to persuade us about identity, about being one kind of person, a funny journalist, a viz editor, and being another kind of person, a strange, rapt, devout poet, rather like Blake. So that's where my research lies. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in all kinds of things that language can do to persuade us of things. I've been Min Wild, and I hope to meet you sometime. Thanks very much. Thanks for listening.